All right, so this is a super quick sequence that I would do just with my hands to loosen up front of the neck, some of the back of the neck, and the jaw. So TMJ, temples as well. All right, so the way I like to start this out is by doing some stretching, warm the area up. You can also use a little bit of heat. Don't just go right into working. Be a little bit gentler on yourself than that. So to start with, what I like to do is do a little bit of neck stretching. I like to do some fascial release. So I place my hand just below my clavicle and get the palm of my hand there, and I get downward traction. With that downward traction, you'll start to feel some pulling through the front of your neck, and you can just hold that. And you're not putting a whole lot of pressure here. It's just enough to feel that pull. And from there, I'm going to look up. And with each breath out, I'm letting my hands drop down a little bit more, creating more space. A little more flexion on each one. And don't go outside your range of motion. Just go till you feel a good stretch, and then you can come back to a neutral place. And then you can hold one side, and you can do movement this way. And you'll feel a really deep stretch through here. You might feel it up into your jaw. That's really nice. And same thing on the other side. And when you do this, kind of looking up and down, again, keeping it within a comfortable range of motion, you might hear a click or crack, but there shouldn't be a lot of movement through the cervical spine through here. So again, on this side, looking over and just breathing. And this is hitting the platysma. This is hitting some of the SCM. A little bit of the scalenes here as well. Yeah, I feel it's super deep right through there. And another way that you can hit the stretch, you can put your arms behind you and look left to right, and you'll feel a stretch through here. Do it anyway. It's not going to hurt you. And then from there, I like to just take my hands and just do a little bit of through the back. Again, just warming the muscles up here. And just feeling what's sore, making note, observing. That way when you do this again later, you'll see what's different. And then I like to do this. Again, warming up the front of the neck muscles, the SCM, and some of the other stuff. And you'll see, I mean, I've got some redness. You'll feel some heat through there. That's all getting the blood flowing. I don't like to start at the place of pain because I find that a lot of times that's a little bit more tender. And so starting in some of the peripheral areas, the distal areas, can be helpful, and then coming in on where the discomfort is. So from there, another thing that you can do, you can use a Theracane. You can also use a therapy ball for this. If you don't have these tools, hands work fine. Finding your trap is that muscle there that you can grab. And for a lot of people, this muscle's tight, especially if you've been sitting at a computer all day long. So I like to just take my hand and place it, neutral position with my head. I'll reinforce it. And sometimes just that pressure can be enough, and you can feel a release and a sink and an opening. And then if you want to add more, you can add back some of those head movements. Again, you'll feel it through the front of your neck, the side of your neck. And this is just another way to get into the trap, the levators. Oof. Side's tender. And the more out you are, this is more trap. And then when you get here, you'll feel more of like a knot, kind of a bump. And you might even be able to move that muscle around. That's the levator muscle. And it goes up and connects into the cervical spine. And 3, different places. So when this is messed up, it can pull on a lot of different things. Pin and stretch. This is what the pin and stretch means. Find a little tender point like that one, and then move around and wait for it to be a little less tender, and your hand might pop off of it and you can reposition it, and you can just kind of work your way around. From there, going into the SCM. Before I officially get into the SCM, I like to work around the jawline. And for me, this is one of the ways that I do it. And you can prop yourself up and just kind of let your head sink. This is another good way to do it. And coming all the way, and just let your fingers just gonna move. And if it gets stuck, that's an area of tension that needs to be released. Sit with it until it softens, and eventually it'll get stuck. And after a few breaths, suddenly we're moving again. That's a release. That's good. So again, just this area, just on the other side of the bone. We don't want to get in here because that's our trachea and our esophagus and everything. So avoiding this middle area, but staying by the bone. And you can come all the way up into here. And this is like, there's a lot of muscle in here, and this can be uncomfortable too. And this isn't an area you need to work very hard on. And again, you can just kind of prop yourself up and sink, and just let your body do the heavy lifting. Especially if you have hands that get more tired, carpal tunnel syndrome, things like that, arthritis. So we've loosened up through here. We've loosened up our neck. The last part of the neck we're going to work on is the SCM. Good old SCM. All the way up to that attachment, all the tender places. Sitting and breathing where it's tender. Both sides. Swallowing while you work on this muscle is actually helpful. Super tender through there. And make sure when you are working on especially the neck muscles that you are as upright and centered as you can be. If you're working on them in a position like this, you're not going to be able to get to what you really need to. There's going to be some blockage there if you're in a weird position. So being as upright as possible as your body will let you comfortably. And then, you know, for the jaw, you can prop yourself up and be in a little bit weirder position, but specifically for this neck stuff, we don't want to push any of the cervical spine out of place. Going up to the jaw. So because of what I do, my fingers are very strong, so I can work on myself a little bit heavier than some people, which is why I suggest propping up on stuff. And so you've got your masseter, which you can pinch it, you'll feel. And just kind of taking a couple fingers. And again, just let your body do the work. And you're just going to let it sink. And you're going to get up to the cheekbone, the zygomatic arch, and you'll reset. And starting down here at the very base at the attachment. And then, after you do one or two just normal, add in some movement. It can be gentle. It doesn't need to be big range of motion. Just keep it comfortable. It doesn't need to feel like your jaw's being popped out of place. A good way to know when to move on is when your fingers start moving pretty fluidly and easily through that area. So again, do 1 or 2 passes and just letting your head sink into your fingers. And then you can go into some movement, range of motion. And your fingers will kind of move with each open and close. You'll notice it stop and then go again. So that's a really good one for the jaw. Another good one, if you start corner of your mouth, come down and push that way, you'll hit a spot. And you'll feel it a little bit through here. There are some nerves through here, so again, keep it comfortable. And you'll get to a spot that you kind of stop. And when you get there, just really gentle. Circles, you can do a little bit of range of motion. And as you loosen this up, things are probably going to start to feel more tender because we've gotten the guarding, this wall that your body's built to kind of keep itself safe. We're breaking that down so that we can get to more of the actual places of tension and soreness. So, and you'll find again, I mean, just pressing tender places, you find it and just sit with it. And then, so after that, I also like to come in here in general. That can feel good. Play with it. Get weird. From there, I take my fingers either side of my ear and I do this and just kind of smooth it out a little bit. And really getting right here where the tragus is, and you feel some divots through there. And when you open your mouth, you'll notice a hole. So kind of focusing where that hole is and just kind of running over it. You don't have to keep your mouth open, like open it to locate it. And then just kind of work around it a little bit. From there, going into the temples, again, like holding your arms up like this and working on yourself, it can be a lot. Prop yourself and work on yourself. So the temples, again, it can be the same thing that you did with the jaw, just placing at the base of the hairline, kind of into this area and up into the hairline. That's the temple. And you'll feel it, and there can be some really tender places. And you can also, another way to find some of those tender places, you can tap. And you'll notice, I'm not like slamming, gentle tapping. You'll notice more tender places than others. Tapping in general can be really good for a lot of different reasons. I use it a little bit more here as a diagnostic tool to see where a little bit more tension and discomfort is. And for me, I feel it like right here. So that's just a sign for me that maybe that needs a little bit more attention. Because of the temporalis muscle being involved with chewing, clench your jaw and you'll see, you can see my hands moving. That's the temporal muscle. And so chewing a lot and things like that, like this muscle gets used more than we realize. So it can be really tender in there. Sometimes it can be as tender as like a headache kind of thing. In which case, using your fingers like this, I would use broader strokes. So the more tender the place is, the broader of an area you use, it's going to be a little bit more gentle. And then once you get into more pinpoint, that's going to be a little bit more aggressive. And it absolutely has a place, but in the beginning stages of getting to know yourself and starting to work some of this stuff out, keep it comfortable. After working that area, we're going to go into the mouth. So again, big triangle here of what we're going to work on. You can see, which is fun. Sorry, thanks for looking inside my mouth. So, here, here. So, I'm pinching and dragging. And again, just letting the body do the work. You'll get to a tender spot. And you're just going to breathe. And after a minute of breathing, it will relax. And then you'll keep going. And that, the more pressure you put on the inside, you're getting into some of the deeper muscles. And just play with it. Again, going up, putting pressure through here. And working around. Like, all of this is muscle attachment here. And around. And it's going to be tender. And if you don't want to use the same hand, you don't have to. You can put pressure and you can do it that way. And that way, you got this on the other side, but the pressure's coming from the other hand. And you can reinforce. So, we'll do that on the other side just to even it up. And you'll feel the ridge in there. And it's hard. And once you find that ridge, rest on the ridge. And then bring the pressure in. And that's how you're going to hook in there really good. If you don't start at the ridge, you can still get to the muscle, but it's not the same. I feel like this side's definitely more tender. All right, so now that we've done that, that's kind of the gist of the whole head, neck, and the things that you'll work on for the TMJ stuff. And I do recommend you, before you start any of this, look at yourself in the mirror and see, like, how's your jaw tracking? What's your range of motion? Record it. That way you have a little bit of before and after and you can see the difference. And I sometimes have a click and a bit of movement to my jaw, and it's better right now. All right, for this last part that I'm going to show you, typically I would do this on the floor, but for the sake of the video, I'll just show you sitting here. Interlace your fingers, then you got your thumbs. Lay on the floor, and you're going to take your thumbs, and you can just do this. And you can do this sitting up too. And that's a good way to get back in the occiput. Therapy ball back here is really, really good. You can get still point inducers is another tool that's really good for that area. The last thing to this that is a good exercise that you can do are chin tucks. If you have the PDF on the TMJ, you'll see chin tucks mentioned in there. And so the chin tucks are just, you're here, and it's creating space through the occiput, and it's taking pressure off the cervical spine, because so many of us, we're typing, we're on our computer, we're here, and we want to be here. And so to help activate some of those muscles, you can also do this on a wall. Just kind of let your back lay up and then just push your head against the wall. And then that's going to create some of that space. So that's what the chin tucks are. Hopefully this is helpful. Let me know if you have any questions.